Let's talk about Tehran's air. It's a serious pollution crisis that often covers the city in a thick, dangerous smog. It's a huge problem, for sure, but it's not an impossible one. So what's the real cost of all this pollution? Who are the surprising culprits behind the smog? And, most importantly, is there a clear path to clean skies? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. For the nearly 9 million people who call Tehran home, a view like this isn't just an occasional bad day. It's pretty much a daily reality. This constant blanket of smog affects everything from your morning commute to your family's long-term health. It casts a literal shadow over one of the world's great megacities. So what is the actual cost of breathing this air? Well, it's a toll you can measure in two ways: in human lives and in cold, hard cash. And when you see the numbers, they're just staggering.
Okay, let's start with the most serious cost of all. A health assessment found that just one type of pollutant, this tiny stuff called particulate matter, is linked to over 2,000 excess deaths in Tehran every single year. That's almost 6 people every single day, just from this one pollutant.
And then there's the money. The economic fallout is just as massive. The World Bank figures that all the health impacts, we're talking hospital visits, lost workdays, and premature deaths, cost Tehran's economy a mind-boggling $2.6 billion every single year.
To really put this into perspective, the amount of that harmful particulate matter in Tehran's air is nearly 4 times the level the World Health Organization says is safe. So yeah, we're not talking about a small problem here. This is a full-blown public health emergency.
So where is all this stuff coming from? Because, to fix a problem, you have to know what's actually causing it. And when it comes to Tehran's notorious traffic, the main culprit might not be what you think.
I mean, it seems like a logical assumption, doesn't it? Tehran is famous for its traffic jams. You've got millions of passenger cars clogging up the streets day in and day out. So of course, they've got to be the ones pumping out most of the smog, right? Well, let's just say the data tells a very, very different story.
And here it is. Get ready for this, because this chart is stunning. It shows us where that particulate pollution from vehicles is really coming from. Heavy-duty vehicles, so buses and trucks, they're responsible for a whopping 85% of it. Motorcycles come in next at 12%, and all those passenger cars, a tiny 3%.
And this slide right here is where the numbers get absolutely wild. It shows this incredible disconnect. Heavy-duty vehicles make up only 2% of the vehicles on the road, but they produce 85% of the pollution. Meanwhile, cars make up almost 80% of the traffic but contribute only 3% of this specific pollutant. The imbalance is just incredible.
So what's the deal? How can so few vehicles cause so much trouble? Well, it boils down to 3 main things. First, age. About a third of these heavy-duty vehicles are over 20 years old. Second, you've got dirty fuel. A single bus running on diesel can spit out nearly 400 times more soot than one running on natural gas. And third, outdated tech, especially on motorcycles, millions of which are still using old-school carburetor engines that just don't burn fuel cleanly.
Now, faced with this crisis, you might think the city's just been sitting on its hands. But that's not the case. For decades, Tehran has actually been fighting back, rolling out a whole series of policies trying to clear the air.
This timeline shows some of the big moments. Way back in 2002, they took a huge step and got lead out of gasoline, a major win for public health. In 2008, the first bus rapid transit line opened up. And more recently, in 2016, the city brought in a low-emission zone, and remembering how polluting those motorcycles are, they banned the licensing of new ones with those old, dirty carburetor engines.
A huge part of the strategy has been just pouring investment into public transit. The Tehran metro system has expanded to 192 kilometers, handling hundreds of millions of trips every year. And the bus rapid transit system? It now has 7 lines carrying about 4 million people every day. That's like moving the entire population of a major city every single day without them needing to get into a car. That's huge.
The really good news here is that Tehran isn't alone in this fight. Cities all over the world have faced their own air pollution nightmares and have come out the other side. And that means there's now a proven playbook of solutions that we know actually work. They don't have to reinvent the wheel.
This quote from Sumi Mehta at Vital Strategies really says it all. Real progress is possible. We've seen it in cities from Beijing to New York. With focused effort, you really can clean the air. The hardest part is just getting started.
So what does this playbook look like? Well, first, you've got to monitor your air quality with modern sensors to know what you're dealing with in real time. Then, and this is key, you connect that data to health records to see the real-world impact. From there, you figure out which actions give you the biggest bang for your buck, get all the right city agencies in a room together, and create incentives to help people and businesses make cleaner choices.
And hey, if you want proof that this stuff actually works, just look at London. They introduced something called an ultra-low emission zone, or ULEZ, which basically charges the most polluting vehicles to drive into the city center. The result? They slashed nitrogen dioxide from traffic by a massive 46% in central London. It works.
Okay, so let's bring it all back to Tehran. We know the cost, we know who the main culprits are, and we have this global playbook full of proven solutions. So what's next? What should the top priorities be?
Well, the World Bank has pretty much laid out the roadmap, and the top short-term priorities are all about hitting this thing hard and fast. They're all rated as highly effective. Get old, heavy-duty vehicles off the road with a scrappage program, stick special filters on the ones that remain, and expand the city's low-emission zones.
And you heard me mention a diesel particulate filter, or DPF. So what the heck is that? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. Think of it like a high-tech soot trap. It's a device you fit onto the exhaust, and it physically catches and removes all that nasty particulate matter before it ever gets into the air we breathe. It's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
So, in the end, it really comes down to this choice right here. On the left, you have the current reality, a skyline choked by smog. And on the right, you have what's possible, that same vibrant city, but under a clear, beautiful blue sky. The difference is stark, and the path from one to the other is totally achievable.
So where does that leave us? The data couldn't be clearer. The biggest sources of pollution have been found. A roadmap of proven solutions from all around the world exists. The challenge is huge, no doubt, but the opportunity to transform the health and the future of millions of people is even bigger. The playbook is written, the path is clear. The only real question left is the will to walk it.